DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Do you want to know what's happening in the Finger Lakes? We do too. We're going in depth with decision makers in the heart of upstate New York to get the answers you need. From the team of FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX.
Welcome back to Inside the FLX. It's time for our monthly chat with Cayuga County Sheriff Brian Schenck, who joins us by Zoom. And today with a little bit of breaking news. Sheriff, thanks so much for being here. Let's start with the letter you released today. The county is obviously going through some budget challenges due to the closure of the county office building earlier this spring. But it seems the majority on the legislature is looking to cut public safety funding as a way to help pay for it. Walk us through that letter.
Sure. I did release that letter today via social media and to a few media outlets, just detailing my concern with some challenges that we have coming this year and moving into next year. Our county budget is going to be a difficult one this year with some issues we have with certain revenues coming into the county, sales tax, and then with our county office building closure and some of the unexpected costs that are going to come with that, we're certainly going to have some budget challenges here in Cayuga County. So with that, I've been having some difficulty getting some budgeted positions filled within our sheriff's office. The legislature, a few of our legislators have been pushing back on that as relative to our budget challenges. And I did release a letter today outlining my concern that I believe public safety should be a priority. It should be priority one for any municipality, but certainly our county should make public safety spending a top priority. And it's my position, and as I outlined in the letter, that I understand that with these difficult cuts, we are going to have to cut somewhere, but public safety should be a last resort. And I put this letter out there. I want to educate the community. I think it's important for our community to know what's going on here in county government, that there are certain legislators that feel we should cut our budget at the sheriff's office before looking at all other options for cutting throughout the county. And I want to make sure the public understands that. And I do want to note there are some legislators in our county legislative body that share my position, that have been very supportive in trying to get me my budgeted funding. But there are others that are making it a priority to cut our funding first. So this past Tuesday night was a full legislative meeting where the legislature tabled my request to fill 2 positions. I've been trying to fill these 2 positions for many months. And I've just gotten to the point where, they've tabled it another month. I'm very concerned that they're poised to cut this funding. It appears they're heading in that direction. And on Tuesday night, they even tabled the filling of a 911 dispatcher position that is open. And I know that the 911 center and our sheriff's office, we really don't have extra staff to meet the many challenges we're facing today. And we're really operating at a bare bones minimum, and we can't afford to go backwards. So I just want the legislature to look at public safety as a priority. We'll do our part if we have to cut after all other areas are looked at, but we can't start with our public safety budgets. That's not where you cut first.
What would be the implications, assuming there is a reduction of some sort through the next cycle here? What would be some of the day-to-day implications that folks would see where realistically, you could perhaps cut a little bit or figure out where to flex dollars or manpower, or whatever the case may be?
Sure. Some of the things that we're already struggling with that would be, even impacted further would be things like, traffic enforcement. We receive a lot of requests for people asking us to, provide some traffic enforcement on their road due to speeding or aggressive driving. And, we do our best now to meet those requests, but we struggle because we don't have enough cars to get people out there to do that proactive enforcement. Our navigation division it's been challenging getting our boats out on the water with a lack of staff already. That would further make that difficult. And, when we start eliminating proactive enforcement, we start to see, things go, crime spikes or traffic violations, accidents spike. And I just don't want to see us go backwards. It's hard to measure what you prevent, but when we start losing resources, we can do less when it comes to that type of proactive enforcement and just respond to emergencies. But the proactive enforcement is very important. We have to continue to do that in preventing crime and bad things from happening in our community. And we can't lose sight of the fact that while we can't measure what we prevent, we clearly are preventing certain things by doing that work. That's our job, and we need the resources to do that.
Is there any concern? I know we have personally seen it on the news side in other communities where positions will go unfilled, or they will be left vacant, or maybe just vacant because you can't find the staff or the people to fill them. And then overtime costs ultimately exceed what would have originally been spent just staffing. Is there any concern there that Cayuga County may find itself in that position if, positions are left empty in an attempt to save money up front?
Sure. I mean, it could certainly have an impact if we have emergencies and we're going to need to respond to those emergencies. We may need to hold staff over if we don't have enough bodies out there on the next shift, and there may be additional overtime. And we're already seeing, some pressures on our overtime budgets for just that reason. Realistically, we don't have enough road patrol deputies out there. We do need more. I'm not asking for additional people beyond what I've budgeted for this year. I'm just looking to fill what the positions I've budgeted, but we do have a significant amount of overtime, not only on the road patrol division, but in the jail. And that will certainly become an issue because we have to meet those emergency needs. And if, we continue to see those, then certainly that will impact our overtime budget if we don't have enough staff out there covering those patrol shifts or those jail shifts.
When you mentioned that you've been trying to get some of these budgeted positions filled over the last few months, when did it become clear to you over that time that cuts in the next round were most likely going to be happening? When did things shift from this might just be the typical process, due diligence, to I'm now a little concerned about where this legislative body wants to go with our funding moving forward?
Sure. I actually started to have some concern back in January. When this new legislative body took over, I did introduce 2 resolutions to fill 2 of these positions that were budgeted right in January when the new budget year started. I was asked with one of those resolutions to pull that until a little bit later in the year when I could provide some data and information relative to the need to fill that position, which I did in February. One of the other positions was tabled. That was a jail administrator position, which we've had here since 1994. That position was tabled in January. I did provide data. I've met with legislators, both in public meetings and, one-on-one to try to explain why we need these positions, to provide the data to support those positions. I started to realize in the months after that it just wasn't a priority to fill those positions. But, where my frustration on this issue really came to a head was at last Tuesday night's public safety meeting when I had introduced the resolutions again in June to fill these 2 positions because I said, we can't keep kicking this can down the road. I need these 2 positions filled. They're budgeted. Let's get this done. I thought that there was finally going to be a vote on this past Tuesday night, and the legislature came back and said, we're going to table the fill of all positions that are being sought by all of the department heads. So again, my concern and what generated my letter that I'm releasing today was that I get the need to look at all of our positions throughout the county and look at our budget and start planning now rather than wait until the end of the year when we have some very difficult decisions to make. But you can't start with public safety. And I do know that there are a few legislators who have clearly stated that they are not going to support my 2 positions, period. That's before even looking at anything else. So I just want the public to understand, again, I'm not in a position where I feel that, I should always get, what I ask for, that I don't have to make some necessary cuts. My position is that, do your due diligence in looking at other areas to cut before we cut our public safety resources that are already stretched thin. So that's the purpose of my letter. But to answer your question, I had some concerns back in January. It's become very evident, especially since Tuesday night, that they don't have any intention of making these two positions a priority. So I'm pushing back, and I want the public to realize where I'm at with this.
Is the goal here, or is the hope here that a little more public awareness about the potential cuts to public safety spurs a change of heart on the legislature?
Well, certainly, I want the public. To understand where we're at, but my ultimate goal is for our legislature to understand and put public safety to the forefront. I'm an elected sheriff. I've been, put in this position by the people to provide public safety services, and the public is entrusted in me, to understand what we need to do that effectively. They want me to control our budget. I have a responsibility to the people to control our budget. And I've brought, these needs to the legislature in an approved budget that was approved last year. And it's my hope that they change their view on this. And again, if the legislature goes and does a thorough look throughout the county and determines where other things could potentially be cut before we cut these resources, and they come back to me and, we have no other option but to cut some public safety funding, I will understand that, but there needs to be some due diligence prior to cutting our resources before we make them first here.
Sure, absolutely. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about something a little more positive. Your department has been partnering with the community action programs of Cayuga Seneca to collect cereal for summer. Tell us about that effort.
We have. So this has been a great initiative. Community action programs of Cayuga Seneca, which is in Cayuga County and Seneca County. They do a lot of great things for people in need. And one of those things that they do is they collect food for their food pantry, and they distribute food throughout both communities. And I'm a board member of CAP. I've been involved with CAP here in Auburn for many, many years. I love the organization. I put a lot of personal time into supporting that organization. But one of the campaigns that they've worked on this year is our Cereal for Summer campaign. And that's to make sure that kids and families in our community that might not have access to breakfast because they're not getting that in school or for whatever reason, we want to make sure that they do have access to cereal. So I joined the Auburn Police Department, and now even I see that the Seneca County Sheriff's Office and Seneca Falls PD and Waterloo PD are also collecting cereal. I joined all of them in supporting this initiative, putting a bin in our lobby. I did made a couple of little fun commercials to promote this myself. In hopes that people would donate cereal. But what's really awesome about this is the A.J. Smith School District here in Union Springs, the elementary kids, and collected cereal, about 315 boxes, and donated it to our department to give to CAP. And Half Acre Union Church here locally donated 75 boxes to our sheriff's office to give to CAP. And it's kind of inspired others in our community to help this effort. And it's been a fun cause, and I'm glad it's working out well.
Yeah, absolutely. If folks want to donate to the cause, how can they make a donation on behalf of the sheriff's office?
Yeah, that would be great. If anyone is interested in doing that, they can leave cereal in our lobby. We have a bin in our lobby where you can just come in and drop it. The Auburn Police Department, I believe they still have one in the city of Auburn. Seneca Falls PD, Waterloo PD, the sheriff's office there in Seneca County are collecting, and you can certainly always donate right at your local CAP office.
All right. It seems every week we're getting more and more agencies from across the region warning residents about scams of all different kinds, specifically those targeting older folks. What are you seeing in Cayuga County? A lot of that or something different?
We're seeing many variations of scams. And, a lot of them, as you said, they do target elderly people in our community, usually by telephone, sometimes by email or computer if somebody has access to that, sometimes via letter. But a lot of scams are coming via telephone. And I'm finding what generally happens is the scammer will reach out to somebody on the telephone, and they'll create some type of situation that appears to be an emergency or urgent, or really focuses the victim's mind on the fact that they have to act quickly. That could be that, we're seeing where someone will pretend to be a grandchild that needs help. The grandparent scam, and they need that, the scammer will lead the individual to think that they've got to send money to help a grandchild out with a criminal situation, or maybe an accident that they've been involved in, or some other reason where, the initial phone call creates this panic and this fear that the victim has to act quickly. Oftentimes they want the victim to buy gift cards and then provide the information from gift cards over the phone so money can be transferred to the scammer with really no record of that. I would just warn anybody, that knows of somebody that could fall victim to this, or, has friends or family that are elderly and potential victims, to educate them. If they receive a phone call and it appears that there's some type of an emergency or something that needs urgent attention, come up with a plan where that individual could call a family member or somebody just to verify before they act on something, before they send money or spend money on gift cards that they can never get back. And it's unfortunate, but the only way we can combat this is really to prevent it, because we find 9 times out of 10, when money's spent or money's wired or money's sent to these scammers, we can never get it back. It might go overseas, or we can't trace it. We can't determine where it went. So it's important that we as a community educate ourselves and everybody that could potentially fall victim. But like everybody across the country, we're seeing constant new scams out there, and it's hard to keep up with them. But a little bit of education for folks will help us prevent these.
If it feels suspicious, probably don't act on it. So, yeah, let's talk a little about some recent training, stop stick training. How important is that? Talk to us about what that is.
It is very important. So stop sticks are tools that we carry in each of our patrol vehicles. They are tools designed to blow out tires in a vehicle pursuit. So we carry them in the trunk. If there is a vehicle pursuit where an individual driver fails to comply, fails to pull over, and starts fleeing one of our deputies or another partner agency here in the county, deputies can get in front of the pursuit if they're able to, drop these stop sticks in the road, and when the individual drives over them that's fleeing, it deflates the tires, slowly deflates the tires, and can slow that pursuit down considerably. So the whole goal here is to safely disable that vehicle and to slow it down so that we can get this driver stopped before they hurt themselves or somebody else seriously in our community.
Yeah, and I have to ask, because it seems like every department across the region has its own unique policy on this. When it comes to pursuing those who flee, how does the Cayuga County Sheriff's Office approach it?
So we really limit the times that our deputies can pursue an individual. And what's difficult here is you have to think about, how dangerous these pursuits are. We take into consideration what time of day it is. If it's during rush hour and an individual's fleeing and running through stop signs, speeding, driving the wrong way on certain roads, it can be extremely dangerous. We know that they could seriously injure somebody or kill them if we're chasing them and they're violating those traffic control devices and not obeying them. So we really limit when we can pursue, and that's unfortunate because I think that obviously creates a situation where some individuals realize, well, I'm just going to flee and it's a minor traffic offense, and I'm guessing that the police won't chase me, but we still, in those situations, we'll get license plate numbers and pursue those individuals in other ways, maybe get warrants down the road without chasing them. But, our consideration is public safety, the dangerousness to everybody involved in that pursuit, and certainly to innocent people that can be on the road at the same time. And, we might give a little more leeway if it's after hours. If it's 2:00 in the morning and there's nobody on the highway, we might tend to pursue a little bit longer or for other circumstances, but generally only in very serious incidents will we continue pursuing somebody. If there's a serious public safety risk, if we let this person go, we'll continue to pursue them. But if it's a minor offense, we'll look at getting warrants or trying to catch up with them with tickets down the road rather than put the public and our people at risk.
I have to imagine that's a big reason why that training, the stop stick training, is so important, because these situations aren't happening all the time. They're really pretty infrequent in the grand scheme of things, right? So
recently, in recent years, we've seen a big uptick in them. Unfortunately, when I was a road patrol deputy many, many years ago, it'd be, we might have one pursuit a year, maybe here in Cayuga County. I can tell you that it's not uncommon for us to have them maybe once a month or every few weeks we're seeing them. So I think, a general lack of accountability for some folks when it comes to criminal conduct and that type of things is creating an environment where people are taking off on us more often. So unfortunately, we are seeing those more often. You hear about those a little bit more. It's not an everyday thing, thankfully, but we do see those way more often than we used to many years ago when I was a patrol deputy.
Yeah. School's out. So let's talk a little bit about that. Reflect for me on the 2023-24 calendar. From a public safety standpoint, when it comes to schools and school safety, what stands out to you?
I think we had a really good year here in Cayuga County. I've really been proud of the partnerships we've developed with our schools, not only with putting student resource officers in some of our schools that work under our umbrella, but we've been partnering with all of our school districts, even the ones where we don't have a deputy in the school, on school safety initiatives. And our undersheriff Painstra, is providing a second year of training for all of our security staff and SROs from every school district in the county, whether they're with us or not, in August. We're going to provide some additional training. We did that last year. We partnered with all of our schools recently to create tools that will allow us to enter each school in an emergency without having to wait for somebody to let us in. It's a standardized fob that allows us to get into every school in the county in the event of an emergency, and hopefully we never need that. But rather than having a different key or different access device for every single school in the county, we now have one universal tool that will allow us to get into any school district here. So our Special Patrol Officer, Mike Roden, and Under Sheriff Painstra spearheaded that initiative. So we've been working on that and doing a lot of work with threat assessment, our threat assessment team, to identify kids that need some help that could be potentially going down the wrong path to try to, prevent violence before it could potentially happen. Been working with all of our schools on those initiatives too. So I'm really proud of the partnerships we've developed and what we've been doing. We're going to continue to expand on those as we move into the next school year and beyond.
And Sheriff, we appreciate the time today. We'll be talking to you again in another month or so. Hopefully we have some better news here on the funding side of things next time we talk.
Hopefully we'll keep working at it, but I always appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Josh.